Christ Church, Georgetown is usually known for things like sponsoring the Posh Neighborhoods Garden Tour and being co-founded 203 years ago by Francis Scott Key, who wrote The Star-Spangled Banner.
In an area flush with prominent residents and history, the 800 Family Episcopal Church has both.
It's one of the most well-connected churches in Washington, said Robert Devaney, editor of the Georgetowner newspaper, which covers the Northwest Washington neighborhood. It's a well-attended and respected church. They are an influencer in Georgetown.
But this week congregants are experiencing a different kind of news-making history, after their rector, the Reverend Timothy Cole, became the first confirmed case of coronavirus in the district. Health officials have asked hundreds of people who attended Christ Church services on March 1, or who were at the church on February 24 or between February 28 and March 3, to self-quarantine due to their potential contact with Cole. The cleric is at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital in stable condition.
The latest on coronavirus in the Washington region.
A church spokesman said church leaders previously had discussed precautions for the virus, had hand sanitizers all around the building and did everything they could with the information they had.
Cole on Sunday, March 1, had devoted 5 minutes of his sermon to talking about best practices about hand washing and other virus prevention-related issues, said Rob Bulmer, a congregant serving as church spokesman for the virus. Cole, who parishioners refer to as Father Tim, washed and sanitized his hands before distributing communion at the 11:15 a.m. service, Bulmer said.
Since this came out, we were as diligent as anyone could be, Bulmer said, adding that the church sought guidance from the diocese, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the D.C. Health Department.
Costumes or coronavirus. Synagogues cancel Purim celebrations.
Christ Church does some outreach and services during the week, but its core is Sunday. Internal research shows what parishioners most value and appreciate are the church's traditions, said Sally Squires, a former vestry member, and former Washington Post reporter, who is now on the Altar Guild.
The church was founded in 1817, before the Episcopal Diocese of Washington even existed.
He, a lawyer, was among a small group of Episcopalians who left another parish they didn't find sufficiently conservative and helped found Christ Church. In 1817 he attended the denomination's General Convention, and introduced what he called an evangelical resolution. It decried conforming to the vain amusements of the world, including theater, playing cards and public balls, according to a history the church prepared for its bicentennial in 2017.
Christ Church is a bipartisan church, said Squires and other members. Its prominent members come from different political backgrounds, political, military, legal, medical and others, happy to escape the partisanship they engage with all week.
They are living politics all week and on Sundays want a respite, she said. We don't talk politics. We talk religion and what we can do for others.
Christ Church places a huge emphasis on traditional music, and was left an endowment specifically to support it. The choir is semi-professional, Squires said.
The Episcopal Church is the U.S.-based branch of the Anglican Communion. Like the Catholic Church, it practices an ancient liturgy, offering congregants communion, sometimes called the Eucharist, during services. Typically that is done through a drink of wine or grape juice and bread or wafers. Communion represents different things for Christian churches who do it, but in the Episcopal Church communion represents being in communion with God and each other, according to the denomination's site. The church's site says the rite is a carrying out of Jesus' instruction to break bread and share wine in remembrance of him.
At Christ Church, communion is distributed at 3 services each Sunday. On March 1, Bulmer said, Cole was present for all 3 services but distributed communion, or was the celebrant, only at one.
At communion time, people approach the altar and are given a wafer and offered a sip of wine from a common cup.
Coronavirus threatens one of the most sacred moments in church, communion.
Bulmer said Cole, as usual, used hand sanitizer and washed his hands before distributing communion. He carried out the ritual by placing a wafer in each person's hand as they approach. The celebrant tries to only hold the tip of the wafer, Bulmer said. Most people at Christ Church dip the wafer into the cup, called a chalice, and then drink directly from the cup and eat the wafer, Bulmer said. People who for whatever reason don't wish to do that can cross their hands in front of their chest and simply receive a blessing.
Vollmer received communion at the 9 a.m. service, as usual. But he says knowing what he knows now, he'd forego the rite because of the virus.
In general, having 300 people drinking from the same cup doesn't seem like a standard health choice, Vollmer said. But it's a choice that many of us have made, a lot of Christians have made. There is an experience about everyone sharing from the same cup, us all having this same experience.
Have you been told to self-quarantine? Share your experience with the Post.